What's good, y'all? It's Noble. Welcome back to the PG channel. Today I'm back with another episode of the sample making crash course. This should be episode 3. And today we're talking about how to make your loops sound realistic and how to achieve that by creating ambience in your samples and adding things such as accents and textures. By the end of this video, my goal is to make sure that you have a better idea of how to make your samples feel more real. So yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Alright, so before I break down the sample, this is what it sounds like. Alright, so going forward, you can hear everything 2 semitones up because I did pitch the final sample down. So the basis of this whole sample is an accent for my upcoming AURORA one-shot kit, and I want to pick something that felt really real. So what this is an arpeggio that I played on my piano, and I just have a lot of reverb on it. But the reason that it sounds so real is because you can actually hear the felt noise of the keys. You're gonna see that I end up complementing that later with the Labs piano. For now, this is what the accent sounds like. So for effects, y'all probably heard me talk about changing the bass notes of samples before. But what I mean by that is basically not letting yourself be limited to one bass note. Because this is only one chord playing, if I had the bass notes in there, it wouldn't sound right to have any other kind of sub bass playing. But what I did was cut all the lows out so that way I had freedom when I added a sub bass. And you're gonna see that gives me more control in making the sample flow. Then I also wanted to add a halftime section. Now, as you just heard, there is an automation cutting the bass level out right here. And the reason for that is because the chord note actually matches the bass note that I chose. And then you saw right when it changed, I made sure to cut it back in again. So from here, I went to the soft piano in Labs, which is a little bit less realistic than the real piano I use for the accent. That was fine because I already had the realisticness from the actual accent. Here are the chords that I'm playing. They're mimicking the bass pattern. So the effects on the piano are actually really important, not because of how they're affecting the piano in this instance, but because all these kind of effects are really how you're going to achieve that realistic feel. The most important of which is Sketch Cassette. In my opinion, this is better than any vinyl plugin you'll find out there. If you watch my videos a lot, you know that I almost always use the gentle modulation preset with the flutter down, but there are a lot of other presets to choose from. I mean, this plugin is literally designed to make your samples sound more realistic. Now, most producers know that adding reverb to your samples is something common to add realisticity. I already decided that isn't a word, but honestly at this point I don't care, just keep it. But what's really slept on is picking the right reverb. You want to choose your reverb based on the situation. For example, here I almost want it to sound like an empty room, but when I do guitar runs, for example, I just want there to be a clean, nice tail at the end. So I just choose a preset that kind of makes it sound like it's fading away into nothingness. So make sure you really tweak these knobs here. The bass here is probably the least realistic part of the sample, but that's okay because all I'm really using it for is to add sub. If I actually want it to be a melodic aspect, like in my guitar samples, I probably would use a Rickenbacker bass, possibly even a real live one. But yeah, anyways, here I'm using the Reese bass from Serum. Showing this bass pattern just reminded me of something that's really important. If you can get one thing from this video, it's that you should really experiment with your bass patterns. Like I described earlier, just cut the bass out of your chords if you're working with something like an accent. Obviously, if you're working with a MIDI, you can choose the bass notes yourself. But if you're just working with one chord and you want to change the bass notes, cut the lows out, it's going to allow for so much more creative freedom. And I really feel like that's something that's really slept on. A producer's just making loops with one bass note the whole time. Or even worse, the generic go into FL keys and put down 4 chords and then add the bass notes matching that. Yeah, it's a tried and true method, but it really doesn't show any creativity. You want something unique to stand out about you when producers are clicking on your samples. That's why I wanted to work on my creativity in my samples until I got to the point where bigger producers were DMing me and telling me what I just told you, that they saw something different in my samples that they couldn't get from other sample makers. And that's exactly what you want to do. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of fucking spitting some fucking game right now, buddy. From here I went to SMO's new Vidir one-shot kit. Shout out to SMO. And I grabbed this sign accent. Like I said earlier, for realistic samples, adding reverb isn't the most important thing. It's what kind of reverb that you're adding. For here, I'm adding one that I kind of described earlier where it almost fades into nothingness and it sounds like it's going down into a tunnel, which is a lot different than a really dry reverb or one to just give it more space or whatever it may be. So after chopping it and letting it reverse into itself, I got this. And you can hear that even though it's meant to be a sign accent, it actually ends up sounding like a little bit of a vocal, almost like somebody's calling for help. And that's kind of a call and response thing because it answers itself with this reverse part right here. And that's really just achieved with the effects and the reverb. For this next accent, which is the guitar, I have the same effect chain as the last one, trying to give it that same feeling. And this is one of my favorite parts of the sample because it's really realistic. There's a little bit of detune on the guitar so it sounds true to life. It makes it sound older and more vintage as well. And that works really well with the accent from before. So from here I found another vocal from that same Vidir one-shot kit, and I pitched it up almost an entire octave to match the pitch and reversed it. Add in a texture to make it even more realistic. More reverby kind of accents just to fill space and add ambiance. This one's from the Cadence one-shot kit, by the way. Make sure you go cop that. Link should be first in the description. Use code NOBLE22 for 10% off. Not only Cadence, but all kits on the PG website. And yeah, from there I just arranged it and summed it out. And yeah, this is the final sample. That's going to be about it for the video, y'all. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the Team PG channel and turn on post notifications so you don't miss any uploads. We really do appreciate it. Most importantly, make sure y'all go cop Cadence. First link in the description. And even more importantly, man, be on the lookout for Aurora. I'm so hyped for y'all to have this kit. Accents and phrases are nuts, and I know y'all are going to fuck with it. I hope you learned something from this episode, the sample making crash course. Let me know down in the comments what y'all want to see in episode 4. And yeah, this is Noble. I'm out.